Don't worry guys, the video about Neymar will be coming along, but there's some few things that I think we need to talk about Valverde's press conference that he had before the game against PSV. He talked about the reason why he thinks there may be a lot of injuries right now for Barcelona, as well as he talked for a new role of Ousmane Dembele that could see him stay at the club or maybe angry him and think somewhere else to move. So we need to talk about those things first because they must be addressed. If by any means you're interested in cheap, reliable footballing kits, be sure to check out Antigua. Links are gonna be in the description down below. They provide worldwide coverage, which is one of the best things I can recommend about them, as well as secure payment options to ensure that you get the best service possible. You get the deal, you know the drill, but now let's get right into it. What's going on guys, ¿Cómo están? BugaLuis here, welcome back to another video here on the channel. And like I said already, we need to talk about this thing first before we do the video on Neymar, because I already know what you're gonna say. Neymar is never gonna come back to Barcelona. I also hope that he doesn't, but there's a very big reason why, and that's what we're gonna talk about in next videos. Today we're gonna talk about, like I said, the pre-conference, the conference of Valverde. So if you're excited for that, drop us a like, leave us a subscribe, and let's get right into it.
Hay que tener en cuenta que casi todos los problemas que estamos teniendo últimamente están afectando a jugadores que están yendo a la selección. Jugadores como el caso de Artur, que ha pasado de jugar una competición a estar jugando con nosotros en un ritmo diferente, 2 competiciones, luego cambiar entrenamiento, ir con la selección y jugar todo, también es algo nuevo para él, se tiene que acostumbrar. En el caso de Iván vino con problemas de la selección, en el caso de Vermaelen con problemas de la selección, en el caso de Zilesen pues casi, y bueno, también tenemos que pagar esa sobrecarga de jugadores porque casi todos los que han venido, incluso Rafinha, que ha sido un accidente, también ha estado en la selección esta semana, y Sergi Roberto. Entonces queremos que los jugadores vayan a la selección, pero bueno, es algo que, bueno, es un precio que hay que pagar, y a veces lo vas pagando durante la temporada de una manera, pues bueno, alternativa, y en este caso ha coincidido varios jugadores al mismo tiempo.
So there you can see that Ernesto Valverde talks about the idea of the players, of course, of Barcelona traveling to their national teams, and that's where they're getting injured. Of course, I do agree with that. I do agree to some certain extent that obviously if you're, for instance, Arthur, that is a very good example, where he starts only playing one competition or two, with la Copa Libertadores and the Brasileirao Primera Liga, and then you move back now to La Liga, you have La Copa del Rey, you got the Champions League, and now plus he's starting the full games for Brazil in the national team. That's always going to be a lot of load, you know, it's going to be a lot of like effort for only one player, and especially for his body. So in that sense, I do agree with Valverde that injuries might also be because they're playing a lot more games, but you cannot put all the blame on the national team, because he's putting the blame like on Tite and the Brazilian Federation, which in reality doesn't make sense, and the same with other like Zilesen, which is from Netherlands. You got Suarez from Uruguay. It's also a little bit of himself. It's a little bit of Barcelona's. It's responsibility of Barcelona to also take care of their players, because they are with the club mostly. Like, a player spends time at the club city, be it in this case Barcelona, more than he will ever spend time in Brazil over the course of a year. And it's also our kind of like responsibility to look out for these players and also rotate them a little bit more, and that is something that Valverde has not been doing this season. If he continues to play the same starting 11 week in, week out, week in, week out, we're just gonna be ending up with players that, like we already mentioned before, in the case of, for instance, last year with Roma, they're gonna be exhausted for the key moments of the season, and that's something that we don't like to see here in the club, because we want to have our best players ready for the best moments and most difficult challenges we have throughout the season, and that comes around February, around March, around May. So Valverde, the blame is not only on the national team, it's also a little bit on yourself. You have to look a little bit deeper into the team and see which players need rotation, because right now you are not really doing it.
Yo creo que solo la intensidad de los partidos muy seguidos, viajes con la selección, todo eso se fue acumulando, y a cada jugador que le ha tocado entrar lo ha hecho al máximo, entonces siempre hay lesiones más encima al principio de temporada. Esperamos que se recuperen todos pronto. Ya recuperamos, como dije, a 2 jugadores importantes, y puedan estar todos ya al 100% lo antes posible para que el Barça sea más fuerte.
Something that Valverde also touched upon was that a lot of top European competitions, and also I think around the world, you know, where you have to enlist players before entering that competition. For instance, in the Champions League, we got players to enlist at the start of the season, and then later on, for instance, you got the ability to replace a player in any competition like those when they have suffered a long-term injury. In the case of Rafinha, that has happened exactly that. I'm not going to talk, you know, in depth over each injury because there are already people who have done it better and before me, so you already know what's going on. And in that sense, Valverde has been asked if he has the decision of bringing somebody new in the January transfer window, and this is what he had to say about that.
Bueno, es algo que tenemos que analizar. Esto ha sido toda una sorpresa absoluta, lo de Rafinha, porque, bueno, pues por cómo se produjo, porque terminó el partido, y ahora nos toca analizar todo eso. De todas maneras, el mercado de invierno está cerca, o sea, de ahora en este mes pues tendremos que analizar, tenemos tiempo para analizar todas estas circunstancias y valorarlo. Desde luego, si es una baja sensible para el equipo porque estaba entrando en los últimos meses, y es una pena sobre todo para él porque ha salido de una lesión larga, importante, y ahora pues le viene esto. La verdad es que el otro día estaba tocado el jugador.
So here Valverde doesn't really is too clear. He doesn't really say directly whether he wants to bring a player or whether he doesn't. But something that I would recommend for the club is to look obviously at Aleñá, because Carlos Aleñá is a player that just has shown potential and really plays in a similar way to Rafinha. And most importantly, is a player that his contract, or the clause in his contract, allows him to leave by the end of this season if he isn't guaranteed a first place team spot basically by the end of, or by the start of the 2019-2020 season. So it's really worrying. We need to start getting Aleñá, because he may get that first team spot, but he will not be ready for it, you know, he will not be at the same rhythm he needs to be. So in that sense, I think we need to take this chance and look at it as the best way possible. Of course, I don't like players being injured, but in this case we can bring Aleñá, use this opportunity to give him more playing time, to get accustomed to the first team. I think this is the perfect opportunity to do it, and Valverde should try it out. After those comments of Valverde, the press started to ask him a little bit more about the case of Ousmane Dembele, and this is what he had to say about obviously his goal against Atlético Madrid.
Es importante para el jugador, es importante para todos. Ese gol fue importantísimo porque al final hizo que no perdiéramos en un partido increíble que podíamos haber perdido. Y en cuanto a él, pues mira, esperamos que le ayude, de la misma manera que un gol siempre le da confianza a cualquier jugador, pero tengo la sensación de que Dembélé siempre va a intentar dar lo mejor cuando sale. Además, cuando salió fue profundo en el juego y al final tuvo ese premio.
So you see there, it's something very regular, like a manager always says stuff like that, but I think it's also important to take a look at what the players have to say about that and how they can help Dembélé to try and get out of this problem. And someone who was also next to Valverde in this press conference was Arturo Vidal, so this is what he had to say about Dembélé.
A veces se habla mucho de lo que pasa fuera del campo y no dentro. Dembélé ha sido muy importante esta temporada, es un jugador joven, un jugador que necesita mucho cariño y consejos, y acá en Barcelona se le ha ayudado mucho. Es un jugador, como te digo, bastante fuerte, y con la confianza, con el pasar de los partidos, va a ser mucho más importante que hasta ahora. Ha hecho muchos goles importantes, todos sabemos, así que le tenemos mucha confianza en el equipo.
So as you can see right there, there's a good environment surrounding Ousmane Dembele at the Camp Nou, at Barcelona, trying to help him to get out of this tricky situation. And certainly scoring last-minute goals like he did against Atlético Madrid, like he did against Rayo Vallecano, against Real Sociedad, and there are many other, I think, fixtures where he was influential. I think right now Dembele is the player who directly contributed more points to his side in the whole of La Liga. So that is very important for a player who is in this situation and a player who has not been getting as much minutes as he deserves. So in that case, Ousmane Dembele has been doing amazingly. And talking about that specifically, his way of coming in as a super sub, you know, having that ability to come off the bench and really make an impact, Valverde had something really big, important things to say about that. So here you go.
Dembélé es un jugador que viene actuando habitualmente, a veces entra desde el banquillo, a veces empieza de entrada. Es un jugador que tiene esa cualidad. Primero, si juega de entrada, pues tiene desborde, puede desequilibrar al contrario, pero que también cuando está en el banquillo y sale, pues es un buen revulsivo, porque siempre revoluciona un poco el partido en el buen sentido para nosotros. Entonces yo es algo que valoro mucho. Es algo que yo creo que en el mundo del fútbol a veces está poco valorado en líneas generales, y yo creo que es algo importante. Jugadores que en un momento determinado pueden cambiar la dinámica de un partido, y no todos tienen esa cualidad.
So this is good. This is good. This may be worrying in some cases because obviously we can see that Valverde may also picture Dembele to be a substitute, which in all honesty is like, it's not bad, because I know that Dembele is probably one of the most influential substitutes can be around the world, but we also as Barcelona fans don't want to see him be always on the bench. He's a player who has the ability to become one of the best wingers, one of the best forwards in the upcoming generations, basically, of football. So we need him to be starting regularly. He also mentioned a little bit about how Dembele can help us when he starts, but I think that Valverde repeats something that I also said a long time in my match previous, and that is that there are some games where Dembele could be really influential and some where he isn't. But to get that ability to be influential in every single game, he needs to start developing that constant, run of game time. So it's a real dilemma. It's a real dilemma to see what we're gonna do with Dembele, but the guy who has the final word has to be Valverde. So I don't know about you guys. What do you think about the words of Valverde? Do you think he's gonna continue starting? Right now, this video is being recorded before the game against PSV, so I'm not too sure whether he's going to start or not. Hopefully he does. Hopefully he does. But with these comments with Valverde, I'm just not that sure. But either way, I want Dembele to continue being a very good player for Barcelona, and if he continues to form, scoring important goals, but not only from the bench, also from the get-go, being a starter, that's where he's going to earn the respect from the fans, which I think he has already had, but most importantly, the respect of the manager and the motivation that Valverde needs to have inside him to also give Dembele the chance, because he has been playing one game, then one game he has been taken out, so there's really not enough continuity to his game. Hopefully he can improve, hopefully he can get better, and well, let's wait and see what can be of Dembele in the next few weeks. That's gonna be everything for today, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed. Please remember to drop us a like and leave us a subscribe. See you in the next one. Take care. Ciao.